brief introduction to this program. Thereafter, I will invite you to give your presentation, after which Dr. Ambassador Andrew Williams will also give his remarks. Then we'll open the session for our viewers to ask the question as they please. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to welcome you to this our program of today. As we did promise you that we're going to bring you a guest who is going to speak to our liberation, a guest who is going to speak to the emancipation of the African culture. Sometimes we are misled because of lack of information. Without information, then we are bound to be slaves who just appear but to be free, but in real sense we are slaves. Let me start by using the words of the great philosopher Socrates. Socrates did observe that an unexamined life is not worth living. I say that when a man robs you of your identity completely, when you are made to believe that your religion is barbaric and that your way of life is evil, when your language is taken away from you and you are robbed, when your language is taken away from you and your identity robbed from you, you thus lack self-knowledge, and your destiny is typically controlled by others. When your name no longer tastes sweeter for you as a human being, and you replace your name by the names of your slaves, it means, therefore,
okay. Unless you want to go over there now and wait.
Would you mute your microphone, sir, Mr. Makakuvu?
Yeah.
Mr. Makakuvu, unmute your microphone. There was a little noise from the background. Now,
yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Just
okay.
Unmute your microphone. Unmute your microphone. There is a noise from the background. Thank you. I'll take it over again. Borrowing from the words of Socrates, the great philosopher, an unexamined life is not worth living. When a man robs you of your identity completely, when you are made to believe that your religion is barbaric and your way of life is evil, when your language is taken away from you and you are robbed of self-identity, when your name no longer tastes sweeter for you, and the names of your colonizers and your slave masters replaces your identity, you remain a slave and your destiny is controlled. And that, with that, you cease to be a human being and you become a machine controlled by the remote. Japanese have their own culture intact, and they use their own languages as the primary means of instructions. And today in Africa, we use their vehicles, their technology. Their technology is high tech, and they do not borrow, neither do they seek grants from other nations, like we do in Africa. The Chinese have their languages preserved and their cultures intact. Their engineers are making roads in typically all African countries. And if care not taken, they will recolonize our continent. Yet they do not celebrate the religion, the foreign religion, and they do not fancy foreign languages. The United Arab Emirates have their language and their culture and their religion intact, and their development is spiraling at a high rate. They are the kings and giants of trade. Their businesses flourish. They attract the world to themselves. Yet they do not celebrate foreign cultures and foreign religion. In Africa, we ape and jump on anything that comes our way. We forget our culture, and we are religiously obedient to foreign cultures. Foreign cultures including homosexuality and same-sex marriages that are celebrated even in our churches today. New cultures. So today with us, we have a guest, Mr. Makakuvu, who is going to take us through and is going to reflect with us what our religion was and what our religion as the African people is, and the desirable and the desired way of life that we should adopt. Before I give him the opportunity, with us we have Ambassador Andrew Williams, and I would welcome Ambassador Andrew Williams to give his opening remarks as we make way to Mr. Makakuvu to speak to us tonight. Welcome, Sir Andrew Williams.
Well, thank you so very much. And let me first welcome everyone here. This is very important. The time is very important. We are, of course, facing worldwide changes, but we are also in the international decade for people of African descent. So everything we do has a much greater impact around the world. We're also in the first 10-year implementation plan of the African Union Agenda 2063. So as we face our daily challenges, we must acknowledge that all of our efforts have to be pulling forward for one united Africa worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew Williams, Ambassador Andrew Williams, and President. Allow me to bring to us Senior Ansar Makakuvu Ali Elbey, co-founder of Harnessing the Diaspora Economic Development Summit, Underdevelopment and Media Consultant Worldwide Coalition Jazz Lava Television Networks. Sir Makakuvu, the floor is yours. Find the pleasure to interact, educate, teach, educate your people. Sir, welcome.
Magala Nazima Atu and Wazi Umutu. Magala Nazima Atu and Wazi Umutu. Magala Nazima Atu and Wazi Umutu. Call before the Most High, standing in his name. O gracious Heavenly Father and divine Heavenly Mother Moot, clear our mind of debris and purify our heart. Strengthen us in prayer so your children pray with a clean mind and a sincere heart. Udama Akayua, Lion of the New Dawn. Mbagala Nazima Atu Mwazi Mutu. O Sultanet, Mut, the most sacred mother of creation, who breathes the life breath of our men, the breath from which our ancestors worship you. Our spirit seeks the warmth of your bosom now. Send down your glory, glory of 900,000 trillion million angels to shield, guide, heal, strengthen, and protect us into Amenta, paradise, the land of our men. O Mother of Dawn, lift us so our harmony sings praises unto you. As the Netaru and the ancestors walk with us through the healing fields of Amenta, leading us along the golden pathway in the purple garden, the garden whose flowers have a fragrance of a healing nature, beckoning us unto the bosom of the Most High. O Mother of Dawn, the face of Undakim, the sun is your smile. The rain, your tears to water a dry earth, to life abundance. A dry earth, the dryness of mind of our people. A dry earth, the hardness of the heart of our people that has destroyed our spiritual consciousness, so that our people, although they believe they are free, are spiritually enslaved. O Mother of Dawn, lift us, so the strengthening of us, the guiding of us, the awakening of us, the resurrection of our consciousness, Udama Akiyo, line of the new dawn. Umbagala Nazima Atu Umwazi Umutu. Greetings, my brothers. Sinmari, beloved brothers and sisters. Forgive me because I'm on my iPhone, because my desktop browser, has not been upgraded in time to be on the desktop. So I'm holding this iPhone. And I want to thank everyone for coming on to this broadcast today. I'm Makakuvu Ali El Bey. I am a hymn chair to P. That means high. In the background, you see the red flag of the Moors. Makakuvu Ali El Bey is a Moor, as are you, Mori Amazi. An ancient title, an ancient ethnicity that goes all the way back to before the Greeks, the Ptolemies. As Brother Josephat said, mentioned Socrates, I'm going to mention Herodotus. Herodotus wrote a book called The Histories. And the book was written about an ancient civilization called Atlantis. But in the book, Herodotus mentions that the people of Atlantis called themselves Moors, meaning that there is a contradiction there, because if the land was called Atlantis and the common construct of a people is to name themselves after the land, then would they not have been called Atlanteans as opposed to Maori? And then the archaeological site of the description of so-called Atlantis has been unearthed in Mauritania, the Eye of Africa, Al-Kubilan or Al-Kabulan. So if they call themselves Maori and the archaeological site of Atlantis, so-called Atlantis, is in Mauritania, then I ascribe the name of Atlantis to the ancient civilization of Admorium. And Admorium has been unearthed by Prince Uriel Bey. You can see his programming on YouTube. You put in Prince Uriel Bey, B-A-E-B-A-I, excuse me, and you can hear him speaking about at Moria. The Moors, navigators of the planet. The Moors, ancient people from Kush and Kemet, are in the process of a resurrection. You heard me say, and I greet you, Udama Akayur, Lion of the New Dawn. Udama Akayur, Lion of the New Dawn. Udama Akayur, Lion of the New Dawn. The lion is our consciousness. The new dawn is the resurrection of our consciousness, Udama Akayur. You see me holding the Ankh. The Ankh is the symbol of life. The circle at the top of the Ankh represents the woman, the vagina. The two bars on the Ankh represent the ovaries or the children. And the stem of the Ankh represents the man or the penis. The symbol of life, one of our most ancient spiritual symbols. Very important. See, because our people have been taught to embrace religion and forsake spirituality. I'm going to say that again. Our people have been taught to embrace religion and forsake our spirituality. What do I mean by that? Well, I mentioned the Ptolemies, and Josephat mentioned Socrates, Greek. In antiquity, they were known as the Ptolemies. And when the Ptolemies invaded Kemet, the Greeks invaded Kemet, they outlawed, I want you to understand it very clearly, folks, they outlawed one of our most sacred spiritual constructs of creation. In that construct, it is known as Ma'at. Ma'at, M-A''A'-T. Ma'at, as you heard me say, Udama'a Kayur, which is Ma'at is the root of Udama'a Kayur. Ma'at means truth, but it means something greater than that, folks. Ma'at is actually the weighing of the heart against the feather of truth. I'm going to say that again. The weighing of the heart against the feather of truth. The weighing of the heart of the deceased against the feather of truth. So Ma'at means truth. The truth of the deceased after the deceased soul has passed through the doorway of so-called death. I say so-called death because the passing of the soul from the body through the doorway of death is actually the second birth. I will say that again. Because our people have been taught that so-called death is the boogeyman, so you're supposed to be afraid of it and embrace the physical world. But the problem with that is this. There's the spiritual constitution of the universe, the spiritual constitution of the mind, and the spiritual constitution of the body. Religionism doesn't teach you that. Religionism is designed to enslave you. So now, let me go back. The weighing of the heart against the feather of truth. After the soul passes from the body, the constitution, the spiritual constitution of the body is then dissolved, and the soul passes into what is known as the Wasket Ma'at, the double halls of truth. Ma'at is actually, I'm going to say it again, the weighing of the heart against the feather of truth, which is the judgment scene, which is judgment. So now you embrace Christianity and you embrace all the other religions that teach you about when you die, you're going to be judged. But they don't teach you that that judgment is called Ma'at. And what the Ptolemies, the Greeks, did when they came into Kemet, which is the ancient name of so-called modern-day Egypt, and Egypt is an English translation of a Greek word, Aegyptus, 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 which means land of the black. Kemet means black land, not black people. And I got to break this down, folks, because our people are spiritually enslaved. Last year, folks running around celebrating 1619, 400 years of the culmination of the prophecy in the book of Genesis that says your seed will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them and afflict them for 400 years. So 1619, when the first ships landed in what is now Hampton, Virginia, the Portuguese ships of the captives from the war between Angola and Portugal, and I credit my great brother, Goodwill Ambassador Andrew Williams, for acknowledging that part of our myology. Notice I did not say his story. I said myology. My for self and ology for the study of. So that verse in the Bible that says your seed will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs and serve them and afflict them for 400 years, that 400 year celebration took place last year. But the most important line in that verse is this. The last line. It says, that land I shall judge. And that land I shall judge. And see, the Ptolemies, when they came into Kemet, they outlawed Ma'at. They outlawed truth. They made the Ankh and all of our spiritual symbols a crime for us to continue to practice our Kemetic, our Kushite, and our ancient Atmorium spirituality. They even changed the name of our language and called it hieroglyphics. The name of our language is Medu Necher. Necher means spirit. Medu means words. So the language that you and I have been taught to call hieroglyphics, the real name is Medu Necher, spiritual words. Now, if our people knew how to read, write, teach, and speak that language, you would know that that language is the basis from which the Bible is written from. The Bible is written from. Go back home. Come back to our spirituality. So if the Greeks over 2,000 years ago, and I got to date this because this is 2020. So over 2,000 years ago, they outlawed our most sacred spiritual concepts, which is, by the way, is written in the heavens. It's written in the heavens. So how are they going to outlaw what the Nechair, some of you call the Nechair God, but that's a misnomer. That's a Germanic word. And the God of this world is not who you think the God is. I'm going to say that again. The God of this world is not who you think the God is. Folks under the mountain, I believe in God. I believe in God. Well, if the world is in chaos, then that means the God of this world must be the God of chaos. Like you got chaos in the White House. You see, people look at Satan in the White House. Satan in the White House. Why did I say that? See, you listen to the talk show hosts, you listen to the news, and none of them have clearly defined who that character is. The nature of that character is a political insurrectionist. A political insurrectionist. Now you need to break that down, folks. Insurrection means revolution. That's what an insurrection is. Tear stuff up. So political insurrectionist, political insurrection. What is he fomenting? He is fomenting a political insurrection, which is dangerous for the world. So the tramp in the White House, and I say tramp because he's trampling on the dignity of the office, the dignity of the Constitution, and the dignity of humanity, is a political insurrectionist. And you hear me call him Satan in the White House because that's his job. Let me give you this verse. Udama Akayu, a line of the new dawn. It is time for the resurrection of the consciousness of man. A time when evil will be diminished. A time when the presence of the Most High will rise in awe, and all will attest to the magnificence in one voice indeed. Udama Akayu, a line of the new dawn. Line of the new dawn, Udama Akayu. It is time for the resurrection of the consciousness of man. A time when evil will be diminished. A time when the presence of the Most High will rise in awe, and all will attest to the magnificence in one voice indeed. Udama Akayu, a line of the new dawn. Line of the new dawn, Udama Akayu. It is time for the resurrection of the consciousness of man. A time when evil will be diminished. A time when the presence of the Most High will rise in awe, and all will attest to the magnificence in one voice indeed. Udama Akayu, a line of the new dawn. The most important line in that verse is a time when evil will be diminished. A time when evil will be diminished. In order for evil to be diminished, if it has to raise its head. Evil must raise its head to the neck, so it can be cut off at the neck. And that is what Satan's in the White House job is, to raise evil to the neck, as his character dictates, that of a political insurrectionist. So when you listen to those talk show hosts and the pundits and the analysis, none of them have described him for who he really is. Satan in the White House is a political insurrectionist. And I have to credit my brother, my St. Marie, beloved brother, Goodwill Ambassador Andrew Williams, because in 2016, he and I were moving forward to develop the World Media Coalition Conference to dissect the propaganda narrative in mainstream media regarding the character that now occupies the Oval Office. Unfortunately, that conference never unfolded, but the next year in 2017, what did take place was the harnessing the diaspora economic current. The woman is the mother of the nation. When you lift a woman, you raise the nation. Economic Development Summit that was held at the headquarters of the African Union in New York on May 17th. And I have to thank His Excellency, Ambassador Titi Antonio, who was currently the Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs for Angola, for allowing us to host that event there. So when the Ptolemies, I didn't forget, outlawed Ma'at over 2,000 years ago. After that, the Greeks, the Romans came in. I'm gonna check you out now. Pay attention, because I'm getting ready to change the time construct for you so you can see what's going on in the cosmos. The Romans came in and changed the time. That's why it's so-called 2020. because the Romans came in and changed the time by creating a fictitious character, so-called Jesus. Research the history of Christianity written by Sir Walter Williams to determine how long it took for them through 3 councils of Nicaea to create the so-called Jesus lie and the Mother Mary. All of that's based on Osar, Oset, and Harut from our committed Kushite spirituality that they have outlawed and co-opted. So now the Greeks outlawed Ma'at, outlawed something that is in the heavens. How are you going to outlaw something that's in the chairs, the spirit, the Una chair, the Most High created, but you outlaw it? Make us think it's a crime to respect and honor the Most Heavenly Father, Amen, and Most Heavenly Mother Mut, and the Son Kansu. And I say that because that's the language that is written in. So now, here come the Romans, and they create this new time construct. It's called the Greco-Roman calendar. The Greco-Roman calendar. And here our people are marking their existence on a time construct that our enemy imposed on us. Worshiping religion that our enemy terrorized us to believe in. Swear up and down, I'm going to be saved by Jesus or Muhammad or Krishna, Buddha. Turn your back on Ma'at, on truth. See, our ancestors began marking time 6,259 years ago. So that's the time construct I'm speaking to you on from right now. 6,259 years ago, 6,259 St. Smai Tawi, S-M-A-I, Smai, Tawi, T-A-W-I. Kemetic words, Smai Tawi, in antiquity, meant the unification of Upper and Lower Kemet. The unification of Upper and Lower Kemet. So when the Nasut, so-called Pharaoh, wore the Kepish Urit, the serpent crown. This is not a snake, folks. This is representative of 2 things. The Uchat, which is the pineal gland, known as the third eye, and the galaxy. If you study the book, The Serpent in the Sky, it speaks about how the galaxy, Tao Sang, T-O-W, Tao, Sang, S-A-I-N, uncurls, traveling through the cosmos, and it looks like a snake. So don't get afraid of this, folks. Embrace it, because this is your spirituality. This is your eye that will allow you to liberate your spiritual consciousness, Udama Akayur. Udama Akayur is the vibratory frequency of spiritual liberation. Remember that verse says, and that land I shall judge. So be careful of embracing half-truths, because you are not responsible for this. But if you embrace this, you will be a part of that judgment. You see, 2020 does not represent the 21st century to me. 2020 represents, number one, that there have been an eclipse of 2 complete millennia, 2 complete 1,000-year periods. The 20 represents the beginning of a new 1,000-year period. Therefore, for me, it's not the 21st century, it's the beginning of the third millennium on the Greco-Roman calendar. Now, Smartawi in antiquity meant the unification of upper and lower Kemet. In this day and time, ST, Smartawi means the unification of the upper and the lower consciousness. The upper and the lower conscious. Notice I did not use the term subconscious. I do not believe in the subconscious. There's an upper consciousness and a lower consciousness. And the lower consciousness functions in a realm that allows people to describe it as a subconscious. Well, he did something because his subconscious was misbehaving. No, he wasn't. His subconscious wasn't misbehaving. He was believing in what he was doing. He was misbehaving, not his subconscious. The lower consciousness, the unification of the upper and lower consciousness is the resurrection of the consciousness of man, a time when evil will be diminished, a time when the presence of the Most High will rise in all, and all will attest to the magnificence in one voice indeed, Udama Akayu, line of the new dawn. A time when the presence of the Most High will rise in all, okay? Let's put that in the proper context in terms of what's happening in the world right now. Everybody has been dropping on their knees. Oh God, save me, save us from this pandemic. The presence of the Most High will rise in all, but evil hasn't been slain. Evil is still raising his head. So I want to break something down for you folks. I want to break down what is the Kushite Kemetic cosmological mathematical equation. Now, that's math. I'm talking about spiritual mathematics. Spiritual mathematics, the Kushite Kemetic cosmological mathematical equation. Now, equation has two sides. Why it's an equation? This side equals that side. So 6,259 Smartawi. Our ancestors began to mark time based upon the rising of a star, not the birth of a so-called fictitious man that was developed through the Council of Nicaea under Emperor Constantine, when they had the council with the argument between the bishops to prevail. One side was with the Unitarian one creator concept. The other side was with the Trinitarian concept, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And they prevailed. So study that. There were 3 councils of Nicaea over a period of almost 400 years. The first one was under Emperor Constantine. Emperor Constantine could communicate and see spirits. He could communicate with them and see them. Our ancestors began to mark the time based upon the rising of Sabdet, the so-called Sirius star, which begins to rise on July 25th over the Giza Plain in Kemet, over the Ab Merkut, the Great Pyramid. Notice I said Ab Merkut. I didn't say Great Pyramid. I'm using our language, folks, the Meduna chair. And that's where your spiritual liberation begins. So now, 6,259 going into 6,260, based upon the rising of Sabdet, which begins to rise over the Giza Plain, over the Ab Merkut on July 25th. July 25th, it begins its ascension. On August 3rd, it reaches its apex, which is the Wetwood Pet, the new year. Before it starts its descent to disappear until the next year. Our ancestors began to observe that 6,259 years ago. ST, Smartawi. So write that down, folks, because that's the concept. That's the time construct. And construct is with a K, not a C. The K stands for the cosmone arc that the Tao saying, the Milky Way galaxy, is traveling through right now. in the heavens. Cosmon means, K-O-S-M-O-N, means that all things known and unknown shall be sufficiently proven. That's why it is with a K, because our travels in the cosmological construct and the cosmological empire of creation is in the ark of Cosmon. During the great flood, thou same was in the ark of No. And I'm speaking about the language that the term and the name O-Aspe comes out of. O for sky, A for earth, and Spe for spirit. So if during the great flood, thou same was traveling through the ark of No, and the earth was in the ark of No, I was in No, turn it around, you got Noah. You got Noah. Got to break that down, people, because you've been lied to. What I mean by that. So if I asked you, you know the story of Cain and Abel, right? They teach you that in church. Story of Cain killed Abel. That was his brother. But that was a lie, because their name wasn't Cain nor Abel. So you believe a lie. Then I was to ask you, what is the direct relationship between the so-called Washington Monument and the so-called story of Cain and Abel? What's the relationship? You wouldn't be able to tell me. So these are things that have been deconstructed and reconstructed with a C to imprison you spiritually. So our spiritual enslavement began over 2,000 years ago. 6,259 going to 6,260. It's 40 years from 6,300. 2020 is 40 years from 2060. I'm going to back you up for a moment. I'm going to take you back to Ma'at for a moment. See, because Ma'at is judgment. The weighing of the heart against the feather of truth. The weighing of the heart of the deceased. Ma'at has 42 negative confessions. 42 negative confessions. 42 negative confessions, which each one of those confessions is what is read by Jehudi, who is described in the judgment scene. Impu, the one they call Anubis, they call Jehudi Thoth. They're lying all the time, folks, changing the name. So if my name is Makakufu and somebody say your name is Dirt and you believe them, they didn't lie to you. They didn't lie to you, but you believe the lie. The scribe is Jehudi. Impu, the one they call Anubis, that ain't his name, it's Impu. A-M-P-U, Impu. Is the opener of the way. He opens the door of the Wasket Ma'at. Osar, not Osiris, which is the Greek interpretation of the name Osar. They lying again because they changed the name. Anytime you change the name of the original, you lying. Get that clear, folks. If you're not speaking the original tongue of our people, you speaking a lie. So Osar, who is the brother of Set, is on the judgment throne, not God. God on the judgment throne. What God you talking about? Because Set is a God, and Set is the God that rules this world. That's why the world's in chaos, because Set, S-E-T, is the God of chaos. 6,259 going to 6,260. It's 42 years, 40 years. So now, I'm going to talk about 2018 to 2060 is 42 years. 6,258 is 42 years from 6,300. Now let's talk about the numerology right quick. 6 and 3 is 9. 9 represents born because it takes a woman 9 months from conception to birth to bring forth child. So 9 represents born. So in the cosmos, you have 6,300, which is the Kushite Kemetic cosmological birth cycle of the Ma'at dawn. The Kushite Kemetic cosmological birth cycle of the Ma'at dawn. The Kushite Kemetic cosmological birth cycle of the Ma'at dawn, the dawn of truth, because Ma'at means truth. So 42 years from 6,258 to 6,300. 42 years from 2018 AD, Greco-Roman calendar, to 2060. 2 and 6 is 8. 1 is knowledge, 2 is wisdom, 3 is understanding, 4 is freedom, 5 is power, 6 is equality, 7 is God, 8 is build and destroy, 9 is born. 2060 means build with 1 360-degree cipher in it, separating the 6 and the 2. 6 and 2 is 8. Destroy. You already witnessing the destruction of the American economy, the worldwide economy. Coronavirus came in, she come in and shut everything down. Over 1 million people in the United States infected with the disease, and Satan in the White House said he's doing a good job. Satan in the White House destroyed the fail-safe that was put in by the prior administration. And I ain't no fan of Obama, by the way. I ain't no fan of Obama because Obama destroyed Libya. And many of our people right now are in Libya with skin color as dark as mine and darker, being forced to eat cloth in cages because the pale Libyans are exercising the right of set. So now, you got 42 years from 2018 to 2060, 42 years from 6,258 to 6,300, the Kushite Kemetic cosmological birth cycle of the Ma'at dawn. You got 42 years, you got 42 negative confessions of Ma'at. So there's your mathematical equation. The Kushite Kemetic cosmological mathematical equation says that you are in the Ma'at quadrant. You are in the Ma'at quadrant in the cosmos. So don't think you're walking on this planet in 2020. You're walking on this planet in the Ma'at quadrant on both time constructs. That's what you're walking in. What does that mean? What does that mean? So I'm going to take you down, and I'm going to talk to you about the pentagram decades. The pentagram decades are the first 5 decades of any new millennium. By the way, folks, 6,259 means that the Kushite Kemetic millennium is the 7th millennium, not the 3rd millennium on the Greco-Roman calendar. So our time construct is in the 7th millennium. And 6,200 to 6,300 is 700 years from 7,000. So now you got 7 represents Nature, represents the spirit, represents God, if you will. So now, the pentagram decades, the first 5 decades of any new millennium. This is not just any new millennium, folks. This is the beginning of the 3rd millennium on the Greco-Roman calendar. The 3rd millennium on the Greco-Roman calendar, folks, not the 21st century. Get off of that. Don't think in terms of that, because when you think in terms of that, you cannot equate the Kushite Kemetic cosmological mathematical equation, because you're not in the time construct consciousness to equate it. So you're in the dark. You want to come into the light of truth, the light of Ma'at, because you're walking in the Ma'at quadrant. You ain't walking in Jesus saves me. You ain't walking in that. So forget about that. Learn to embrace what your spirit within you guides you to embrace. I can tell you right now, everybody listening to this is vibrating at a different rate because you're vibrating on Udama Akayu, or the vibratory frequency of spiritual liberation. That's right. I know what you're feeling because I can feel you feeling it. Now, let's talk about the pentagram decades. The pentagram decades are the first 5 decades of any new millennium. And as I said, this is just not any new millennium. This is the 3rd millennium on the Greco-Roman calendar, the lying Greeks and the lying Romans calendar, who changed our time construct to suit their demonic plague that they have brought upon the earth. I'm going to tell you where the plague came from. I ain't finished talking about Set, folks. I'm going to tell you where the plague came from. Remember, I said Set is the god of chaos, and Set is the god of this world. The first decade, from 2000 to 2010, is the decade of enlightenment. The decade of enlightenment from 2000 to 2010. I hope some of y'all are taking some notes because this is going to be broadcast, and you can take notes again on that. But I hope some of you are taking some of these notes because you need to inculcate this. You need to inculcate this. 2000 to 2010 is the decade of enlightenment. Enlightenment as signified by the discovery of the Grand Unified Theorem. The Grand Unified Theorem, which is the mathematical equation that proves the very existence of God, it is the mathematical equation that Einstein was looking for when he died. Now you can check that out. You can take my word for it. Because he says that himself in the Einstein papers. They read some of his papers, and he said that he was looking for the theory of unification. He didn't discover it. But there's a brother that did, named Gabriel Oyibo, Dr. Gabriel Oyibo, a good friend of mine, a Nigerian physicist, discovered the Grand Unified Theorem. He's got books. I got his books. He's got more books. He's still alive, folks. Google Gabriel Oyibo, Oyibo. He discovered the Grand Unified Theorem, and the Set followers did not give him the Nobel Peace Prize and gave it to some Caucasians. So Nigeria developed a Peace Prize to honor Dr. Gabriel Oyibo. And if any of you ever get to meet him, tell him Makakuvu sends his greeting, Udama Akayu, a line of the new dawn. Dr. Gabriel Oyibo said this to me. And pay attention. Dr. Gabriel Oyibo said, Makakuvu, the Grand Unified Theorem, is contained in the Medu Neter. That's what Dr. Oyibo said to me. He said the Grand Unified Theorem is contained in the Medu Neter. So that means the Grand Unified Theorem is contained in the language of our spiritual DNA, in the language of creation. Now remember, if the Grand Unified Theorem is contained in the Medu Neter, the language of our spiritual DNA, the language of creation, and the Ptolemies, the Greeks came in and outlawed that and renamed our language hieroglyphics, that was their crime against the Creator. Wake up, you're sleeping with your eyes open, folks, believing in that garbage they're teaching you. So that's the decade of enlightenment from 2000 to 2010. The next decade is the decade of redemption. I like this one because, see, redemption, people go to church and say, hey, I'm going to be redeemed. Jesus is going to redeem me. Redemption ain't for us, folks. You can't go to church and be redeemed. You can't believe in Jesus and be redeemed. You can't believe in Muhammad and be redeemed. You can't believe in Buddha and be redeemed. The only way you can achieve redemption is to do the work to lift fallen humanity. You got that? To do the work to lift fallen humanity. See, because the Creator gave us everything that is needed for us to be successful. You got air, you got water, you got land to grow your food, you got air to breathe, you got water to drink. Everything that was needed for us to be successful was given to us. Except the fact that when the seed of Set began to go about the world under the doctrine of doom diversas, now you got to check that out, D-U-M-D-I-V-E-R-S. Excuse me, D-I, one word, doom, diversas, D-I-V-E-R-S-A-S, doom diversas, is the doctrine of discovery that came out of the Vatican in 1455, in that decade, under Pope Nicholas V and some other popes, that said the Sethians had the right, the followers of Set had the right to go around the world and claim land for the church and declare the people in those lands enemy of Jesus Christ. Check out Doom the Verse, folks. Excuse me for a moment. I just wanted to clear my nose. Thank you. And no disrespect to anyone, but I got to share that to you. So now, the decade of redemption from 2010 to 2020. Remember, redemption ain't for us. Redemption is for us to do the work to raise humanity, fallen humanity. So this is what's happening in the first year of the decade of redemption. Not only was it the first year in the decade of redemption, the first month in the decade of redemption, January 2011, you had the earthquake in Haiti. Over 250,000 people lost their lives. The earthquake in Haiti. Everybody said, oh my God, we got to go to Haiti. We got to lift fallen humanity. Then you had a series of earthquakes. You had the tsunami. You had a tsunami on Christmas Day a couple of years ago. We got to lift these people. We got to help these people. Hurricanes, destruction. We got to lift these people, fallen humanity. Here's the kicker about the decade of redemption, folks. All these folks got all these prophecies, but nobody pays attention to the prophecy from Amexem. Amexem, A-M-E-X-E-M, or Al Moricanos, or Guatemala, or Turtle Island. Those are four names of this land before the invasion that was led by the so-called discovery of Christopher Columbus, who thought he was in India. So when he saw the people, he named them Indians, and they still running around today calling themselves Indians. Well, if you call yourself an Indian, and it's a name that a man who was lost thought he was an Indian, thought he was in India, and he called you an Indian, and you calling yourself an Indian, that means you lost too. I am not an Indian. I'm a Nubian Algonquin, Ukachag, Cushite Moor, as in Al Moricanos. So Amexem, one of these, the names of this, the original names of this land, so-called United States of America, there's a prophecy. And that prophecy comes from the 7 sacred flames of the Lakota Sioux. The 7 sacred flames were the nations within the Lakota Sioux. And they had gathered in the Western Plains over 2,000 years ago. And while they were gathered in the western plains, the sachems, the chiefs, sent them out to hunt for game, the buffalo. On the first day, the hunters go out looking for buffalo. They don't find none. You got 100,000 people in the western plains. Over 100,000 people come together for the gathering of the people, the powwow. They couldn't find any game on the first day, so they go out the second day. They come back, they found no game. They go out on the third day, they come back, they found no game. On the fourth day, the hunters go out. And two hunters off in the distance look up and they see a figure walking toward them. This figure is a Wankantanka. A Wankantanka is a spiritual figure, a spirit figure. And they knew it was a Wankantanka because she was not walking on the earth, she was floating above it toward them. A beautiful Ukachag Algonquin maiden. As she got closer to the two hunters, one of them began to lust after her, and she beckoned for him to step forward. When he stepped, now you can Google this, by the way, folks. I'm not telling you something that you can't figure out by going to the computer. So when he stepped toward her, he was struck by lightning and disintegrated. The other hunter dropped to his knees, and she said, "No, raise up. Raise up. Raise up. You must go to your people and prepare them for my coming. And you must prepare them and teach these things to them so that they can be prepared to receive me." And she taught him what to tell them and to share with them. And he went back to them and he shared with them that they will be visited by the Wankantanka, a spirit figure, a beautiful Algonquin maiden. And when she came to them, she taught them the 7 sacred ceremonies. And when she was preparing to leave, she said this. She said, "Beware the birth of the white buffalo. Beware the birth of the white buffalo. For mankind has until the 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century to redeem himself before the great purification." Didn't say to stop the great purification. It said before the great purification. That's like that Bible verse that says, if my people will turn from their wicked ways and turn their face unto me, I will heal the land. It don't say I heal the people. Say I'll heal the land. Why? Because there's sickness in the land. Diseases in the land. And right now with this pandemic and all these people was locked in their homes, couldn't go outside, the earth has begun to breathe itself. Skies have cleared. Air smells even fresher. The water's even fresher. The pollution has stopped. You can see the Himalayan mountains from Bombay, India. But these folks, the Sethians, the followers of Satan, they clamoring to go outside. They running up into Capitol buildings with guns. If you don't open up, we're going to kill y'all. That's the set. That's the disease. The virus ain't the coronavirus. The virus is man. You think I'm lying? I'm going to give you this right quick, but I ain't finished with the pentagram decades now. I'm only in the decade of redemption. But I'm going to give you this. The most powerful, dangerous, and destructive revolution in the history of mankind. The most powerful, dangerous, and destructive revolution in the history of mankind is the Industrial Revolution. 1849, it started, brought about mass production, machine age, the technological age. From 1849 to 2020, 170 years, the mindset and the paradigm of the Industrial Revolution has brought the earth to the brink of disaster. So now, The pentagram decades, the decade of redemption, the prophecy of the white buffalo calf woman on the birth of the white buffalo says that mankind has until the 21st day, until the 21st year of the 21st century, January 21st, 2021, the day after the next inauguration of the next successful presidential election, which takes us into the decade of manifestation. Manifestation means that those acts to lift fallen humanity will manifest in those people that the acts to lift them was intended to do. Now, if you don't see no change, that means there was falsehood that was perpetuated during the redemption, decade of redemption. That's 2020 to 2030. So now, from 2030 to 2040, you got the decade of the decade of judgment. Judgment from 2030 to 2040. From 2040 to 2050, you got the decade of retribution. Now remember, decade of redemption, there are people who seek not to be redeemed. So that takes us up to 2050. From 2050 to 2060 is the dawn of the mind-free consciousness, Udama Al-Kiyur, meaning that you got to free your mind, meaning that you got to spiritually liberate your consciousness, dawn of the mind-free consciousness. Now, 2050 corresponds to 6,290, going into 6,300. 2060 is the equivalent of 6,300. You now have the solution to the Kushite-Kemetic cosmological mathematical equation. So you just can't say 2060 is equal to 3,600. You got to know how to get there. You got to know the mathematical formula that takes you there. Spiritual mathematics. Now I want to take you back to the story of so-called Cain and Abel, because that's very significant. It's the story of Osar and Seth. See, they teach you that so-called Adam and Eve had two children, Cain and Abel. They didn't. You study the Meduna chair. First of all, Adam and Eve is not their name. Is Geb, G-E-B, and Nut, N-U-T. Geb and Nut. Geb is Adam. Nut is Eve. They had 5 children. They had 5 children. Osar, Set, Nebahet, and Haru-Ur. Haru-Ur. Osar and Set, brother and sister, husband and wife. They had a child, Haru. Haru is the root word of hero. Set and his sister Nebahet, husband and wife. Haru remained Haru-Ur. So now they teach you that Cain killed Abel because Cain was jealous of Abel. That ain't the jealousy. The jealousy was his wife Nebahet. She was jealous of her sister and her brother, Osar and Set, because they had a child. Now you know Osar and Set because they modeled Jesus and Mary and Joseph off of Osar and Set and Haru. And that's the same story that when you watch The Lion King, that's being told to you. That's why The Lion King is so popular, because it's the story of our spiritual DNA. So now, the jealousy was that Nebahet, the wife of Set, was angry because Set was a barren seed. He was a barren seed. He could not father children. She wanted a child. So she shape shifted to make herself look like Orset and slept with her brother Orsar, but she couldn't fool her husband Set. So when he realized what had happened, when he realized what happened, he killed his brother.
Because if they modeled, he was a barren seed. He couldn't.
So now, after he killed his brother, there was some drama involved. Set found the body. Set stole it again. And this time when he stole it, he cut it up into 14 pieces. Spread the pieces throughout the land of Kemet and Cush. She could only find 13 pieces. The piece that she could not find was the Tekken. The Tekken is what the Washington Monument represents. So it represents a part of Osar, but most people think that's the Tekken is a phallic symbol. It is not. It's not shaped like a penis. It's a symbol that represents the resurrection of Osar. So the Tekken is not a penis symbol. It's the symbol of resurrection. Why? Because the penis she needed to complete the body of Osar to do the resurrection ceremony. So now here's the real story, though. And this is about, the story is about the grace and mercy of the Most High and the Neteru. Because after that, because when Set killed his brother Osar, that was the first murder. That was the first murder. And the Neteru in the chair saw that. And they did this. They did this. They granted Set the ability to bear a seed. And that's who white folks are. They're the seed of Set. And that's why the earth has been destroyed, because the seed of Set, Satan is walking to and fro in the earth. That's a verse from the Bible. So the grace and mercy of the Most High saw that Set killed his brother. The resurrection of Osar took place. And through the grace and mercy of the creative forces in the cosmos, gave Set the ability to bear a seed. That's why the Greeks and the Romans, the Greeks outlawed Ma'at, the Romans changed the time, because the time construct is their time to walk to and fro in the earth. So now, this is the basis from which I, Makakuvu Ali Elbey, come to you to share our ancient Kemetic spirituality and the interpretation of the language and the message in that language, so that the vibratory frequency of spiritual liberation can permeate throughout the universe, so that you can resurrect your consciousness unto Udama Akiyur, the lion of the new dawn. You are the lion. The resurrection of your consciousness is the new dawn. And it is because of that new dawn that the cleansing that is taking place right now is underway. I want to thank you. I want to thank Josepha. I want to thank the Goodwill Ambassador. And I want to thank, more importantly, and most importantly, the Una Chair, the Most High, and the Neteru, to allow us to convene in this day and time, in this moment in time, 6,259 Smatawi. Udama Akiyur, Lion of the New Dawn. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you so much for that elaborate presentation in awakening our consciousness and just digging deep to where we are coming from as a people. and understanding where we are, and taking us through where we should be. And most importantly, the recognition and elevating our spirits to realize that we are the lions. We are lions, a very important aspect. You have dealt well, and you've dug deep to our history, which we so much appreciate. And you've also dealt much on the tripartite nature of a human being, that is the body, spirit, and mind connection, just in self-realization of who we are. At this point, let me bring Ambassador Andrew Williams just to bring a perspective to his understanding of what you've shared to the audience. Welcome, Mr. Andrew.
Well, thank you very much. I'll have to remind you that when I was first introduced to Dima Mahmood a couple of weeks ago on your show, even before I knew she was going to be a guest and she was from Sudan, I mentioned that I consider myself, even though Africa was not, I was not born in Africa, Africa was born in me. I took issue with the word Africa simply because here in Los Angeles, I was privy to meet in 1984 the consul general of the Nigerian consulate here in the United States. And he was able to show to me maps that during the period of time that Brother Makakuvu mentioned, the Ptolemy era of the Egyptian history, that was approximately 334 BC to just before 1 BC. The maps that existed at that time did not show the continent of Africa as Africa. It in fact referred to that continent as Nigretia. That's relatively important because the Rosetta Stone, which is recognized as the methodology of interpreting the Egyptian hieroglyphics to Greeks, was in fact nothing more than an inventory of movement of goods and services between the countries. I bring that to our attention because it's critically important that we understand that not only are we gods and goddesses, but we are also responsible for taking control of the existing world in which we find ourselves, Brother Josephat. And to me, the work that you're doing with 365 days of civic engagement in Kenya is critically important to all of that. So what Makakuvu has shown us is that it is, in fact, we ourselves who are in control of our destiny and our future and our present. So I thank you and ask you how you believe this conversation can help motivate our people, not just in Kenya, but throughout the African continent and the diaspora.
I didn't get the last question, the last part.
Just the last part was, how do you believe the information that Makakuvu has now shared with you can help you to expand the reach of 365 days of civic engagement in Kenya throughout the rest of the African continent and the world, to empower our people to take responsibility for their own future and destiny?
Now, number one, what I'm picking from this conversation is the issue of self-identity, and the lies that has been peddled on our people for far so much too long. Without self-realization of who we are, it is so much difficult for people to rise beyond the challenges that they experience. What I'm getting, and how this is going to help us is the aspect of self-realization, self-identity, and just to overcome the lies that our people have been cultured into for a long time. So number one, self-realization, as I keep repeating, knowledge of oneself, and just the knowledge that we hold the key to our destiny as a people. and that nobody has, the monotony to subscribe to us where we are going to and to dictate our future for us. That is my take point of the conversation that we've had and from the presentation of Mr. Makakuvu.
Well, thank you. I agree with you 100,000%. But again, you've taken the lead in taking responsibility to make change. So my belief is that the more that you can demonstrate that among your 6,000 volunteers throughout 17 countries in Africa, the sooner that they can become empowered to change the paradigm, where you have now leaders in Africa who are in their 80s, 70s, and 60s to be replaced by the power of numbers of people who understand that they have themselves in numbers in unity.
Sure enough, sure enough. Great. Allow me to bring Mr. Makakuvu just to ask him a few questions just to get to understand who he is, because I'm getting a text here that you guys want to know who Makakuvu is. Now, sir, Mr. Makakuvu, who is Mr. Makakuvu?
My parents named me Furman Madison Simmons. My parents were from down here in Georgia. The legacy in our family is that I come from a long line of psychics. A long line of psychics. The roots down here from my family go back over 150 years, actually beyond that, because I'm from the ancient Cherokee, the Cherokee. And in the 1835 Atlantic Journal, it was written that the ancient Cherokee were on this land before the earth was divided. My parents named me Furman Madison Simmons. I was born in Amityville, August 3rd, 1950. I was born in Amityville on Albany Avenue in August. So there are 3 A's. I had 3 brothers who passed away. I had 3 sisters, one of whom who passed away. My brothers that passed away were younger than me, so I was the oldest boy. I have 3 sons. So 3 is a very significant number in my life. I was born on August 3rd. By the way, August 3rd is also the Weapon and Pet, the new year. I did not know that. But as my birthday unfolds, I don't celebrate my birthday. I celebrate the new year, the Weapon and Pet, because that's more important, that our people embrace the reality that this is the 7th Kushite Kemetic millennium. 7 represents the creator. So when you reach, when this reaches 6,300, it's 700 years in the 7th millennium from 7,000. That's 3 sevens. So don't discount what time it is, folks. Don't discount that at all. And I have a brother who I'm very close to, Brother Patar Sakir, up in Boston, Massachusetts. And this brother has developed the Rossarian time construct so that our people can begin to embrace the concept of the months of the Kemetic year. And this is his work, the Rossarian calendar. The meteorological star timeline of the Rossarian Sabit im Tuaharu Pama'at. The transformation of the year in the days of the year of truth. This particular month, which is the month of April on the Greco-Roman calendar, on the Rossarian month of May, excuse me. On the Rosarian, it is the month of Sekhmet. Sekhmet. Sekhmet is a creation of Amen. Amen. She is the lion-headed woman that represents heat and fire. And Sekhmet is a protector, but she also allows you to open your third eye. And in antiquity, and this is where the Tekken comes from, the Tekken Nu, really. Nu is the waters of Nu. The Tekken Nu, there is in antiquity a practice, a meditation practice that our ancestors did when they were distressed or looking for truth. And Orset was looking to relieve herself of distress. And the practice is to look directly into Ra, the sun, or Undakim, which is the spiritual name of the sun, Undakim. And that is the practice, the Undakim meditation, the Udama Akayo Undakim Eska Ra Uba, Udama Akayo Undakim Eska Ra Uba meditation. That says the line of the new dawn sun heals and strengthens the third eye, the Uchap. So when doing that sufficiently enough, it is revealed that there is a Tekken in the sky. And that's why the Tekken is shaped like it is. Because Orset saw the Tekken in the sky, and she used that to complete the body of Osar so she could complete the resurrection ceremony. So the name Makakuvu is my spiritual name that was given to me by the Nachair. No man gave that name to me. The Nachair revealed that name to me. And the Nachair revealed that name to me after the tongue, Udama Akayur, was given. Udama Akayur, the line of the new dawn. The line is our consciousness. The new dawn is the resurrection of our consciousness, Udama Akayur. It was 45 years after the name Makakuvu was revealed to me. I have made it my spiritual name. Ali El Bey represents our Moorish ethnicity and our conscious and our identity. Makakuvu means Ma for Ma'at. Ka. When the soul enters into the Wasket Ma'ati, the double halls of truth, it is divided into two. The Ba and the Ka. Ma'at is the weighing of the heart against the feather of two. The heart represents the Ba on the scales. Now I got to say this before I continue. Ma'at is one of our most sacred spiritual entities. It has been co-opted by Set. You know Ma'at, but you know Ma'at as a symbol for the criminal justice system. The woman with the blindfolds and the scale. She holds the scale with nothing on the plate. Ma'at has the heart on one side and the feather of truth on the other, and she wears no blindfold. So now the Ba is represented by the heart. The feather of truth is the construct that creation was built upon, Ma'at, truth. The Ka is judged. So it's the Ba and the Ka that the soul is divided into two parts. The Ka is judged. If it is judged favorably, it is reunited with the Ba into the Ku. So now you got Makaku. The Vu represents the vulture goddess. She is neither a vulture or a goddess. The Vu represents Mut, the most sacred mother of creation. And they use the vulture to represent her because a mother vulture, is very protective of her young. And the Mut also represents, the Vu also represents the Nekabet. Nekabet is, and Uwachet are the two snakes that are on the staff of Jehudi. The staff of Jehudi has been co-opted by the medical system. They call it the caduceus. That symbol is of the internal spiritual entity of us. The straight line in the staff represents the spine. The two snakes represent the breath. The wings represent the soul. So now the snake is one, Nekabet. She's the red snake or the hot breath. I'm sorry. She's the blue snake or the cool breath. And Uwachet is the red snake, the hot breath. That travels up the spine. So our spiritual symbols have not only been co-opted, our spiritual consciousness has been deadened, and our spiritual symbols now are being used against us. So Makakuvu actually means judgment. It means judgment. It means truth of the spirit of the soul or death. Because in order for you to be judged, you must pass through the doorways of death. It took me 45 years to learn that. And I credit my Rex Sabah, who has ascended, him Tepi, Africa. Because I have a book that's called The Oldest Books in the World that was interpreted, and the book was 10 or something like that. And the oldest books in the world are actually the papyrus that he interpreted and put into this book, the papyrus of Kakimba and some others. And I was
Maka, your voice is fading, Makakuvu. Could you repeat the last part, please? Makakuvu, can you hear us? We might have
the path with the Kafra.
I think he's breaking. He's seriously breaking.
Meaning,
Makakuvu.
Mr. Makakuvu, are you there?
His screen is frozen. Yeah, as it is recirculating, Makakuvu, let me ask you to share with the audience before we end the power that you have exerted to bring to Gambia peace and reconciliation. Could you please share that with us?
Actually, that was
yes.
the next item that I was going to ask. As you share that, share with us the work that you've done in Gambia and the impact that it has had so far. And I think we can also have adopt that and have it as adopt it in other countries. So would you share with us your work in Gambia?
The Gambia has been placed upon my path by the Niger. And it's interesting because I've never been to the continent as yet. And my attitude has always been, when it's time for me to go, the Niger will guide me there. In any event, through my work, dealing with some of my close associates from Sierra Leone, Brother Sadiq Y. He had run for a political seat in New York. Sadiq Y was the highest civilian, excuse me, on the city police department. And he reported to the commissioners while he was there. When he ran, excuse me, He ran for the office of public advocate, attorney general from New York, Tish James, and she became she was a city council member, ran for the public advocate's office, and she defeated Sadiq Y, became public advocate, and then she became the attorney general. She's currently in that office right now, Tish James, Letitia James. So when I was working with Sadiq's campaign, I met a brother, Fale Balde. And Fale Balde looked at me and he said, brother, you have a vision for Africa. I want you to work with me with the West African Development Society. So I did some stuff with them. We did a couple of events. And then as time on, he began to talk to me about the dictatorship of Yahya Jammeh that had stifled the growth and the development of the Gambia for 22 years. And out of those 22 years, almost every other year, there was a coup attempt to unseat him. And every coup attempt failed. The last coup attempt was in December 2014. Some people stormed the palace. Some people got killed. Others escaped, came back to the United States, and got arrested when they got to Houston by the FBI. So the people in the diaspora, the Gambians in the diaspora, decided they wanted to take another approach. They decided they wanted to engage in high-level talks to bring about free and fair elections, to unseat the dictator, and to allow for the Gambia to birth into a new democratic republic. So Fale said to me, he said, brother, we're going to send them a letter, and we want you to lead the talks. So when Jammeh sent the ambassador, Sheikh Fai, from the embassy in Washington, Ambassador Tangara did not attend. He was in Addis Ababa in a meeting with the African Union, but he sent his representatives from the consulate in New York. There is a documentary film called The Gambia, the Flower of the African Conscious. The Gambia, the Flower of the African Conscious on YouTube. That is the only documentation of the high-level talks that took place to bring about free and fair elections, to remove the dictator Yahya Jammeh from office, and to elect the current president, His Excellency Adama Barrow. The significance of that is in the name, the title of the documentary itself. The Gambia, the Flower of the African Conscious. The Gambia is also the new economic frontier. But the Gambia, the Flower of the African Conscious, is the name that the Niger gave me to title that documentary. Everybody in that meeting had one thought in mind. Now, there were people in the meeting who had relatives who were killed by Jammeh, tortured by Jammeh, raped by Jammeh, and there were people in the room who were tortured by Jammeh. And when that person said he was tortured by Jammeh, the room exploded. You had over 125 people speaking 40 different languages, and I didn't understand one word. All I could say for 5 minutes was, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum. And the tone settled down. You don't see that part, but you'll hear me say this. You'll hear me say, put your chest back in your pocket. It ain't about you. It's about the children of tomorrow. Everybody in that meeting, including the ambassadors, did not want to see the Gambia devolve into the type of civil strife, violence, and civil war that had engulfed so many other false nations on the continent. And the reason why I say false nations is because not one of those nations, with the exception of Ethiopia, not one of those nations' boundaries were established by our people for the benefit of our people. So forget about being a Kenyan, forget about being a Nigerian, forget about being all of those misnomers of who our people are. Because our identity has to be reestablished. Mori Amazi. Mori Amazi. So now, there's something else that's significant about that. Because there was no civil strife, violence, or civil war. Usually when you depose of a dictator or a king, there's bloodshed. There was no bloodshed. That has never happened in the history of mankind. Ever. Jesus ain't done nothing like that. Moses ain't done nothing like that. Gandhi ain't done nothing like that. It has never happened. And that was the movement of the hearts of the people, guided by the chair to bring about the new Democratic Republic of the Gambia, the new economic frontier for our people. So that documentary, the last thing I want to say about that is this. Nobody knew that Yahya Jammeh had authorized the ambassadors to engage in those talks. And those talks lasted for almost a year. Then they had the elections, and he was elected. Jammeh decided he was going to step down, and then he recanted. When he recanted, he said he's going to stay in office. ECOWAS sent some troops on the border. However, they did not have to go into the Gambia because there was some spiritual work done, and Yahya Jammeh stepped down anyway. Nobody knew those talks was taking place. Nobody knew Jammeh authorized those talks. Even Gambians didn't know. So the African Union didn't know. The European Union didn't know. The United States didn't know. China, Russia, England, France, none of them knew. None of them were involved, so they could not impose their poison in those talks. Doing the chair, Udama Akiyor. Praise the Most High, Lion of the New Dawn.
Thank you, and thank you so much. I don't know if Mr. Andrew Williams would love to add something before we give the guest for today to just wrap it up, because we're already running out of time.
Just thank you.
Just before you speak, because I want you to give your closing remarks, and we welcome Mr. Makakuvu to just close for us the conversation that we've had. Now, the African Renaissance is a concept that we are using in this program of 365 days of civic engagement to educate our people, partly to know our history, where we are coming from, but most importantly to know what really has been dragging us behind in terms of development. It so seems that we've forgotten about ourselves, and we embrace foreign cultures, foreign religion, foreign way of life, that we become second-class global citizens. When we are in a conversation in the global arena, the African continent and the African race always come third or second, depending on how many people are on the table of the conversation. So unless we know who we are, unless we know where we belong as a people, we might not really rise above the dictates that have been dragging our developmental agenda as a people. And so it is my humble appeal to each and every one of the African descent just to dig deep on themselves, to come to a realization that we are a powerful race, we are the lions, and we should awaken the lion that is sleeping deep in us. With that self-realization, I believe that the African Renaissance will be a reality sooner than later. So, Ambassador, would you come on board and just give us your thoughts in connection to the conversation that we've had today before we allow Mr. Makakuvu to give his closing remarks in connection to this? Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you. I can only say that the lion has awakened within all of us. It is the time that we're in, and yet it is what you have taken. You have to take the responsibility for whatever the consequences are of you being who you are to the fullest extent that you can, not just for yourself, but for your people and for our legacy. So I thank you very much, Joseph at Moses, for providing us this opportunity to empower ourselves. And I'll ask everyone to download the Cav Africa app so that they can begin to register with you and we can move forward together in unity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sir Makakufu, we are very grateful to having you today in this conversation. Indeed, you've been very helpful, you've been very insightful, and the conversation with what you've shared tonight will be rebroadcasted in different media platforms, and this has been recorded for future references, and we're anticipating to be having you more and more in this platform just to share your voice. The program that we are running is the 365 Days of Civic Engagement, a program that is aimed at giving people the voice, the power to participate effectively in every processes of governance of their individual countries across the African continent. We are running a subset of the 365 Days of Civic Engagement, a subset program dubbed Add Your Voice. Add Your Voice is a program that is getting the voices of African diaspora to join in the conversation that we are having here in the continent. We value our people in the diaspora, and we would wish to concretely engage with the diaspora in terms of building the African continent. We yearn to build the diaspora, Africa through the diaspora, and the diaspora through Africa. We need to work as a unit, we need to work as a team, we need to work as one person originating from Mother Africa. And with that, Add Your Voice program is a program that is inviting both people in the diaspora and the people on the continent just to share aspects through which our Africa motherland can be a greater continent, a continent that is not taken for granted, a continent where our people are not taken for granted, a continent where our people are not abused, as we've seen in the US, as we've seen in Brazil, as we see in China, as we see in the United Arab Emirates. We want our people to be a people who are dignified. We want our people to be held in high esteem because we are we are equal people before the Almighty God. So, Mr. Wagakuvu, would you give your closing remarks as we come to a close of this program?
Doing the chair, Udamaki, thank you, Professor. Thank you, Ambassador, Goodwill Ambassador Andrew Williams. I just want to close with this. The spiritual constitution of the universe, the spiritual and the spiritual constitution of the body. The 5 greatest gifts of creation. The first greatest gift of creation is conscience, to know of creation. The second greatest gift of creation is breath, for breath fuels the body to experience creation. The third greatest gift is mind. People say, well, isn't conscience and mind the same thing? No. Mind allows one to contemplate creation. The fourth greatest gift is discernment, to know the difference between right and wrong. And the fifth greatest gift is humility, to be thankful for other greatest gifts of creation. A wise man once told me, to master the 5 greatest gifts of creation is the pathway to eternal life. Udama Akiyor, do in the chair, Udama Akiyor, air in the chair to P. Udama Akiyur, through the manifestation of the Most High, Lion of the New Dawn, may our spirits arise and awaken so that the lion can come from under the slumber that has been imposed on it by the enemies of the Most High, Creator of the universe. Do and share, Udama Akiyur, Lion of the New Dawn.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those great insights that you've shared with us. They will go a long way in shaping our conversation as we move forward with the conversation of the African history. Indeed, a people who know themselves are a people who cannot be manipulated. And a people who cannot be manipulated are a people who can purposefully live to impact the generations to come. If we become negligent about ourselves as a people, ourselves as a continent, and ourselves as Africans, then we are bound, to lose it all and lose it all to foreigners. We shall forever remain second-class citizens if we don't awaken the consciousness of self-awareness. So I thank you so much, and I'm grateful for the engagement that we are having continuously, and we are anticipating to have more guests in this platform. And Mr. Makakuvu, feel very much welcome, and wherever we reach out to you, kindly accept our call and just to share with our people. The sharing that we are sharing here, as I've said before, it will be recorded. We shall preserve it, and our people, our contemporaries, and the posterity will have this as reference point to educate themselves and to learn of our history. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, everybody who has tuned in tonight, for the support that you've given us. We feel very much encouraged to having you on board. Just before we wind up, we have Mr. Andrew Williams with us here. Yes,
Just to ask, anyone that wants to reach Makakuvu can do so via Facebook. It's Makakuvu Ali El Bey, and he'll be happy to reply to you.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Until we meet again.